Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 147 in the Gospel of John. Today we're going to ask, are you afraid of the power that you have, or what will you do with the authority that you have? And you do have some. So God has elected that humans have election and choice and agency over sin and our decisions. And we're watching right now in the story of the final days of Jesus, final hours of Jesus, we're watching Pilate make some bad decisions. Yesterday, he got notified from heaven, Pilate, you are sinning. You're at this crossroads. You get a choice. And he doesn't do well with the choice. But join us today as watch him wrestle. He's going to be terrified with the authority that he has, which is not a bad response, actually, because he's encountering Jesus personally. This is going to be from John chapter 19. I'm going to start in verse number 7. The Jews are saying he ought to die because he's made himself the Son of God. When Pilate heard the statement, he was even more afraid. I just love that. Pilate was even more afraid. He's in the life and death decision for Jesus. That's obvious. But really, Pilate is in a life and death decision for himself as well. He started afraid and now is even more afraid. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's actually a plus in the Pilate category. I think a little terror as you encounter the Lord is a good thing. Okay, let's continue with the story. This is verse 19:9. He entered his headquarters again and said to Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. So Pilate said to him, "You will not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to release you and I have authority to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no authority over me at all unless it had been given you from above. Therefore, he who delivered me over to you has the greater sin." All right, so the Jews are saying, kill him, nail him on a cross. And Pilate says to Jesus, don't you know that I have power to kill you on a cross? You know, this is the question today is who has the power? And Pilate is saying twice, I have the power, I have the power. And then Jesus corrects him and says, you would have no power unless it had been given you from above. So God is above earthly authority, but God grants earthly authority. So let's just start today and say, who are you in charge of? Well, yourself to start, your decision, your habits, your schedule. Maybe you've been put in charge of something, children or an organization or something at work. So God has elected that humans have election and choice and agency. So God gives people the opportunity to select him or not. Now, when they do, this gives him glory that a created being created in his image finally recognizes his image. And when they don't, this gives him glory for creating humans with a choice, even if it is not for him. So it's not cruel to form creatures that have the capacity for love and hate. What if God were to make those of no such capabilities? Now, and those would have capacity only for conformity. Well, those, ladies and gentlemen, are called robots. So Pilate is right. He does have power. He has power to do something. He has choice, ability. He has power to receive Jesus as Lord. And, as you get going today, you're going to have some powers. You have powers to do that or other things. So you have choice. Pilate has choice. So this is a power that God has given at least for today. You can choose your schedule. You can choose your media. You can choose your conversations. You can choose how to serve. You can choose whom you fellowship with. You can choose what rolls off your tongue. But this choice will not be forever. Someday, your choices are going to be constrained and limited by age, perhaps mental acuity, physical limitation, eventually by death. So does Pilate have the power today in 2025? Does Pilate have that power that he is talking about back then? Does he have that power today? No, he does not. That era for agency is over. And also, someday the Lord will change the amount of liberty that he gives to receive him or reject him for everybody. Listen to this in Philippians chapter 2, verses 8. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord to the glory of God the Father. So someday, the Lord is going to take away the liberty to decide and recognize him and treat him as he deserves or not. So all are going to recognize him by knee and by tongue. He's going to take option B, that is not recognizing him, off the table. So not recognizing Jesus as Lord will someday not be an option. Every knee will bow. Not every knee should bow. The Greek is actually stronger than our English translation. Not might bow, not possibly bow, not perhaps will bow, but definitively will bow. Every knee bow. Everyone in every location, on every person, on every creation is going to speak and knee is going to bow. So, however, I read this that the judgment of those, even after they recognize, will not change. That means that someday you could go to hell itself, and if you mention the name of Jesus, something would happen. That is, every knee would bow and every tongue confess that you're right. Jesus is Lord, and give God glory. But still, they'd be in hell. So there's a window here, an era of decision, if you will, and agency and willfulness. He, for today, allows us to dissent, but someday he will not. So the teaching point for today, the final charge is, choose you this day whom you will serve. And perhaps you are one of the beings created in his image that finally recognizes his image, and that is going to give him glory. So please, God has given you authority today. He's given you agency. He's given you election. My suggestion is use it well and perhaps even be slightly afraid. Thank you for listening.